Two, check 1, 2. Good evening, everyone. We'd invite you to take your seats so that we can begin. There we go. Good evening. My name is Chris Mercado. I'm a representative from the Office of Strategic Planning. Welcome tonight to the Southeast Area Boundary Study, Meeting 1. A few safety notes and housekeeping tips. We invite everyone to sign in on the way in. If you haven't, please take a moment to do so. We ask our committee members to sign in on the green sheets, and any observers we may have to the process, please sign in on the pink sheets. Sign-in is very important for accountability. In the event of an emergency, such as a fire alarm sounding, we would collect those sheets to make sure that everyone evacuates safely. Please take a moment to look around you and note the exit signs. Our best exits from the cafeteria are through the door you came in and out to the parking lot. There's also another exit door in the corner of the cafeteria near the front of the building. Staff members are available tonight to assist you if you should have any questions. BCPS staff members are wearing orange shaded badges and lanyards. Tonight's meeting materials are all available on the Boundary Study website. If you go to our main BCPS webpage at www.bcps.org, at the bottom of that screen there's a Boundary Study link, and the very first option on there is the Southeast Area Boundary Study. That is where all the meetings will be documented, all the videos from previous meetings, as well as links for current and future meetings. Any materials and maps that we discussed tonight are all posted on the website. The online application to study the maps is also there, as well as links for public comments. Anyone that wishes to leave a public comment for the committee members to review. We'll be collecting those comments from the public throughout the process. To date, we have not received any. We activated the link just a few days ago. But we'll post those as we go along, and we'll remind committee members to review those public comments. We are live streaming tonight, thanks to our friends at BCPS-TV. What's very important about that is that in order for us to record these meetings and keep a video log and record of the meetings, we need to all be heard well, and I know you all have great inside voices, but if any committee members should have a comment, please raise your hand, and one of us will be around with a microphone to make sure that we can record your comment clearly for the, especially for our audiences at home. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to, and one other thing, we do have Spanish translation services available this evening. Mr. Pedro is here with us, and so should anyone wish to avail themselves to his services, he's here for you. Mr. Paul Taylor is going to talk a little bit about the role of observers in the process.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate that this is a public activity and the public is invited to come and observe, but it's important that they do not interact with the committee while the committee is doing its work. There are many opportunities for public engagement. This is one of them. The website, the board meetings, or others. It's important for observers when they're here to respect the committee's workspace. They should not engage, question, or approach the committee members during the meeting. We actually have these protocols for public attendees that we have on the table for observers, and I'm going to read it off so everybody understands. The Baltimore County Police Department's Homeland Security Unit and Office of School Safety has recommended safety and security protocols for public meetings of the Board of Education of Baltimore County. These protocols have been adapted as follows to apply to Baltimore County Public Schools boundary study meetings. The purpose of the boundary study meeting is for the superintendent's volunteer boundary study committee to deliberate and develop a school boundary change recommendations for consideration by the superintendent. Members of the public are invited to be present during boundary study meetings as observers. Observers are members of the public, not as designated committee members, participating BCPS employees or consultants. Observers should remain in the area designated for observers during the meeting, and there are tent identifications for those tables. Observers should not interact with committee members nor approach their work areas during the meeting. Comments, outbursts, remarks, or other behaviors that distracts, disrupts, or interferes with the meetings are prohibited. Persons who disrupt or disturb the meeting will be escorted from the meeting. Persons using language threatening or promoting violence against a BCPS employee or property are subject to legal penalties. Public comments are encouraged by utilizing the public comment links on the BCPS Boundary Study web pages, attending public information sessions, participating in online surveys, and attending board meetings. Next slide. Okay. We have a number of offices of BCPS here to provide support to these processes. And I'll just name some of the offices that are here today. If you just raise your hand, I won't require you to speak or anything. Department of Schools, we have representation, Department of Schools. Communications and Community Outreach.
Over here. Hi, everybody.
Great. Climate and Cultural Development. He's all the way in the back. Early Childhood Programs. Special Education. And Transportation. And as I was previously introduced, I'm the Director of Strategic Planning. Our office manages this process. The other staff members are Manu Kerr, Mike Gottfredson, Chris Bricado, and I'm going to turn it over to our coordinator, Melissa Appler.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Again, my name is Melissa Appler. I'm the coordinator with Strategic Planning. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to go over a little bit about the rationale for this study, what our goals are, the process, and the timeline for the study. So as of September 30th, 2024, which is the official enrollment date that the state uses as the official enrollment, Chase and Seneca Elementary Schools were over capacity and exceeded by 100%. By 2030, Chase Elementary School is projected to reach 116% utilization, while Oliver Beach is currently at 51% utilization. So the goal of this study is to balance the enrollment between the three participating schools. Also, while we're doing this boundary study, we want to try to eliminate satellite boundaries. So currently there are 2 satellite boundaries. These are non-contiguous areas to their districted school. There are 2 areas that are actually in the Chase, in the middle of the Chase boundary, and I'll show you these on the map on the next slide. Also, during this process, we want to try to accommodate, we have early childhood and special education needs in this region, so we're going to build in capacity for future programming in these, during this process as well. So here's a map of the 3 schools participating in the study. Here you can see the satellite areas within the Chase Elementary School boundary. The first one that the arrow is actually pointing to, that area is actually districted for Oliver Beach, and then the lower one here is districted for Seneca. So right now those children are transported through the Chase boundary to those schools. Once, if this boundary study is approved by the board, it will be implemented and the boundaries will become effective in fall of +26, so next school year. So our agenda this evening, we're going to begin by having an overview of the process and timeline. Then our co-worker, Mr. Gottfredson, is going to go over the boundary study considerations that are in Board Policy and Superintendent Rule 1280, and you're going to do a little exercise with those considerations. Then we're going to present the data and the draft options for you to review, and you'll go into small groups to work on that, and then do a report out, and then we'll adjourn the meeting. So the boundary study process is guided by policy and Rule 1280. It's a community-driven committee made up of the principal, a staff member, and parents from each participating school. And the ultimate goal for the committee and their responsibility is to make a recommendation of a boundary to the Board of Education via the superintendent's designee. So the boundary committee is, they the composition of the boundary committee is actually defined in policy or in Rule 1280. It is you have a principal from each of the participating schools, one staff member from each participating schools, and 2 parents. So our total committee here is 13 members with the 3 participating schools. We also have the Southeast Area Educational Advisory Council chair. So when you're working as a committee, we ask that you collaborate exclusively with each other. If there are any observers, you don't go back and talk to observers and vice versa. We also, yeah. Oh, thanks. We also ask, as a committee, if you work, as you work towards the recommendation, that you are mindful and keep the best interest of all students in the study area in your mind, and not just a specific community or a specific area or a goal, that we are looking out for all children. So also, as you get into your small groups, we just like to go over some norms and expectations when you're working in these small groups, that you allow all group members adequate time and space to voice their ideas, opinions, and concerns. We want to make sure voices from all communities are heard. Also consider how each proposal will impact diverse stakeholders. And then if conflict arises, please be mindful of your body language and use I statements to avoid and clarify your points. Also, sometimes you expect non-closure on an issue and you may not be able to resolve that issue. This is the boundary study timeline. So here you're going to see that we have 5 boundary committee meetings. So we have 5 scheduled meetings for us to meet. However, the 3 blue ones are definites, and then we have these 2 dark gray ones on October 8th and December 3rd. These are built in as if needed. So on September 24th, if you as a committee are not ready to make recommendations of options to go to the public information session on October 22nd, we can have an additional meeting for you to see additional options if you want to see that, or additional data. If you need more time, we have a meeting built in. If not, we will not have that one. The same with the one on December 3rd. If you need additional time to look at maps, data, information, to make a recommendation to the board, we have that meeting built in. At the public information session on October 22nd, this is an opportunity for the community to come talk to the committee members. So the committee members are at maps and provide an overview of where we are in the process, and they can answer questions to the community. Then following the recommendation, it goes to the board. We have the board recommendation, the public hearing, and then they make their decision on March 10th. Sorry, one thing. Meeting attendance is very critical for the committee, as we want to make sure all schools are represented and heard. So if for some reason you cannot make a meeting, please email Mr. Godfredson. I'm sure you've already been getting emails from him. So if you just reach out to him if you can't make it and let him know. There are many opportunities for community engagement throughout the process. You can observe the committee meetings in person or on live stream. You can visit the Boundary Study website. All of the materials are on the website. And you can also submit comments, as been said earlier. There's a QR code here for the comments. Attend the public information session and participate in the survey, or attend the board hearing. We also offer multilingual support. Translation of materials are available upon request. The video recordings, they're posted to the website and converted into YouTube, so they can be available in many languages through closed captioning. We have a Spanish interpreter here this evening, and other languages are also available upon request. And the online survey is also translated into multiple languages. So this evening when you came in, we handed you a big binder. This binder is going to grow throughout this process. So in this binder, you have copies of Policy and Rule 1280, your committee meeting calendar, the presentation from this evening, and this first meeting 1 report, which provides you some background, the data and information on the current boundaries, the proposed options. There's also some maps in there that detail the boundaries for each of the schools in a little bit more detail. Each meeting when you come in, we're going to give you a new stack of information that can be put into this binder. And all of this information, again, for your community, if you need to have conversations with them or they want to see what's going on, everything is on the website. This report is also helpful when you're getting questions from your community or your schools. It provides a consistent message from which you can speak from, for providing that data and information. Again, as we break into small groups and go over things, if you have any questions, we have BCPS staff here from multiple offices. If you have questions about transportation or programs at schools, they're here to assist and answer those as you're looking at the options and how that might impact those things. I'm now going to turn this over to Mike Gottfredson, who's going to go over the considerations.
Thanks. Okay. Oh, that's nice and loud. Hope you guys are ready to work. We start with kind of giving you some stuff, but most of your time here is going to be working together. So this is kind of the last slide that I'll talk to you, and then a lot of the rest of it, you guys will be flipping through stuff and talking to each other, so I hope you didn't get too comfy. So as far as the boundary study considerations, these can be thought of like a rubric that each of you can use to evaluate the different options. The unique thing with these considerations is that there's not like a list of these have to be considered or that these are more important, these are less important. Each of you come to this with your own set of values and things. So in the notebook there, you've got the rule that lists some examples of criteria, such as the ones listed on this slide that are pertinent to the study. You may consider others as well. The thought is just that we want to have you have kind of some thought as to why you're making your decision, not just because you liked it, right? So to help with this, we've got a little exercise, and at your tables next to your colors there should be copies of this one. We got two different handouts. The first one is this considerations activity. There should be one for everybody. We've got pens there for you as well. And I'll just explain briefly how this will work. Just wait for everyone, make sure that everyone, should be one more. Everyone got one? Everyone's got a pen that needs one? All right. So you'll see at the very top of the sheet, it's got the verbatim part from the rule that lists some examples of considerations you could use. And then under that is part one, where you can list any additional considerations you think might be important for the committee to consider during the boundary study. And then below that is then where we'd want you to consider or write kind of a top 4 considerations for you and a little reason why. So that could be either the ones that are listed here in Rule 1280. It could be additional considerations you've come up with. But we want you to take a minute to fill this out for yourself. And then as you finish up, we'll let you kind of share with your small groups kind of the thoughts you have. The purpose of this isn't to reach any consensus for you guys to agree, no, these are the most important, more just to hear what other people think about and see how they view this process so they can understand what's important to them. And then we'll go from there. You have a question?
Oh,
No,
yes, I did,
Yeah.
actually.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if someone could please clarify what future capital plans means.
Sure. Yeah, so future capital plans would be if there's future capital projects planned in that area. And for this study, that's not applicable. Certain studies we do, it's because of there's a capital project being built, and so or there's future ones that are planned that'll impact maybe where you want to put kids or the pacing or whatever of things. So that's how that goes. So everyone clear on kind of what we're doing here? So you just take a minute, review the considerations, write down what you think. Any additional considerations should be considered. Write down your thoughts as far as what the most important considerations to you, and then we'll share it from there.
Similar question. What is a feeder school?
Sure. Yes, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So the feeder schools are then the middle schools and high schools. And in the report, we'll go through this some more, but so that just shows which ones they go to. And just as a note, we're not affecting any feeder schools with this. We're not changing any middle or high school boundaries with this. But as you can imagine, if you're changing which schools are going to which, then the percentages of how they go up changes a little bit from that particular elementary school, but you're not changing the assignment for any property, if that makes sense. All right, so we'll give you a few minutes to think about this, read through that. As you kind of finish up, we'll go from there. All right, so as you guys start to finish up your individually, if you want to share with your neighbors any insights that you have, and what we're especially interested in is if there's any additional considerations that you find helpful. If not, that's fine too. But just feel free to share with your neighbors what you consider most important, why, and then we'll go on from there. All right, so if you guys want to finish up your conversations the next couple of minutes. Test. There we go. Thank you, Pat. All right, so if we can get everyone to come back together. We're now going to do a kind of a group exercise along this with the whole group. Each of you should have received a set of 4 dots with stickers, and we'll use that to kind of visualize what maybe you guys were verbalizing a little bit in your smaller group. So up here we've got this little poster for those that can see well. We've got the same kind of 6 considerations that are most pertinent to this study. And then we've got this blank spot here where we can add anyone. So before we get rolling too far, does anyone have any additional considerations they came up with that they think we should add so we can consider at this time? If we want to, we can do it later, as we keep going, but just before, for this particular exercise, anything anyone wants to add for this? Sure, Chris, if you want to get Kristen.
So you're asking if we had any considerations that were not listed on here?
Yes.
I'm really loud. Do you need me to use
Absolutely.
So my concern, and your concern as well, is I'm from Oliver Beach.
Uh-huh.
And we were, you know, at the end of the school year, 51% economically disadvantaged, you know, and I was thinking possibly next year we would be a community school, which would be great. But if we are redistricting and our numbers become such that we are truly a Title I school next year, but they don't use the data until September 30th of next year. And right now, I don't even have an assistant principal at my school. So when I'm looking at support and resource staff for students, not just based upon size, but the funding and things like that, we would be a year before we would be identified, because we can't say, well, we think you'd be Title I, so we're going to give you the money.
So what would you give me as like a 2-word
Well,
thing?
that's why I didn't want to speak.
Would you say resources, resource staff?
Resources,
staffing?
funding.
Okay.
You know, the staffing we would, I mean, the number of teachers we would have, maybe resource staff and things like that. I haven't been in Title I for a while I'm not sure if you can still purchase teachers, and I don't know, right. There's
Okay,
different
no, that's
roles.
fair. Thank you.
Yeah, but
Thank you. Nope, that's great.
And she had the same concern, and she's from Chase.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So
Thank you. Let's see. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add? If not, we'll invite you to come up. So you've got 4 dots. We just ask that you place 1 dot on whichever of the 4 that you think are most important. If you don't want to place all your 4, you don't have to. We just ask you to just do 1, not sandbag it with 4 for one that you think is the most important. So go ahead. We'll give you a few minutes. Come on up, place your dots, and we'll just kind of, we just kind of, and again, we're not trying to this isn't so much a vote or trying to, we're not going to eliminate anything. This is just to kind of help visualize how the committee feels about these. Oh, we're queuing. This is good. Got to get a bigger poster next time so we can. Yeah, we did this like a 60 committee person one time, and that was a really big line. Yes. Yeah, that's the whole point of this thing. No. All right, everyone had a chance to come up. Everyone's very polite, queuing very nicely. Let everyone else put their stickers up. Super. All right, so this is a good review. It looks like we've got a pretty good distribution here of our dots. Less concern on the feeder patterns, but all the other ones seem to have a decent number of folks that consider the importance there. So this will be good. So, and as we go through this tonight, we go through the different options, different things. We want you to, kind of remember this, that, there seems to be broad support for most of the things. There's no one that's particularly unimportant to everybody. So we'll kind of go through that. So we'll turn it back over to Melissa, and she'll walk you through all the data. This will come at you fast and furious, but you guys can handle it. And then we'll give you some time to digest it afterwards.
So I know everyone wants to get into looking at the options. I saw folks looking at those already on the table, but I want to make sure that everyone understands the data, how to read the maps, what we're showing, what these table headings mean before you get into that. So this table here, when I was saying earlier about the September 30th, 24 enrollment data. That is the official by the state. But for this study, we wanted to give you the latest and greatest that we had available right now. 2025 is not available yet. So we are using the end of year, so June 24-25 data. So if enrollment fluctuates throughout the year, these are the end of year numbers. So for all the options, they are based on end of year enrollments. So I just want to go a little bit over the table headings so you know the column headings so you know what they are. So current SRC. SRC is state rated capacity. That is the number of students that can fit and be accommodated in a school. So the capacity of the school. When we say Chase Elementary School has 360, those are based on a formula that's defined by the state. Different room types have different amounts and assignments to them. So an art room is one thing, a special ed room is another, and then that builds up to the total state rated capacity. And these things can change as programming changes within buildings. The next is pre-K. Our pre-kindergarten programs. We break this out separately because these programs have a capacity cap, so they can only take so many students in the program. It's not something you can put more students than they can actually take in that program. So we always break that enrollment out separately. Then you have grade K through 5 live and attend in. These are students that live in the boundary and attend the school. So for Chase, and as an example, 314 students live in the boundary and they attend Chase Elementary School. In the next column, though, we have those that live out and attend in. So these are students that don't live in the Chase boundary, but attend Chase Elementary School. So there's 4 of those. When you take those 3 columns and add them together, you have your total enrollment, which is 351. Now, the next column, the plus and minus, when you look at those in comparison to the SRC, which is the capacity, you can see we have 9 seats left at that school, which is a utilization of 98%. So I just want to explain what those each mean to you. Now, this is the actual capacities and utilizations that we're going to use for the study. So in order to take and accommodate this future regional program at Chase Elementary School, we had to adjust the state-rated capacity because as room uses change, their capacity changes. So we reduced the state-rated capacity at that school. Then also in these options, we added 30 students that may come from outside of the study area. Since these are regional programs, they can take enrollment that are not in one of these 3 schools. So we wanted to make sure we factored in that enrollment that can come from outside into the total capacity and enrollment in this area. So that brings us to a total of 381. On your tables, you've seen there's 3 maps. There's a current boundary map, option 1 for you to get started on, and option 2 this evening that you'll be looking at. When you're looking at these maps, there are gray hashed patterns around, and you'll see it, they're most immediately around the school. So these are your non-transport zones. These are areas that students do not receive bus service. So you can keep those in mind if thinking about taking kids out, putting them on buses or not on buses, you would think keep these in mind. Then you have the black and white dotted lines. These are planning blocks. We use these are kind of puzzle pieces, small geographies that we use to build the options. So each planning block has a number of students in it. We can move these around and build different options from these. So when you look at the maps, you'll see these blocks that are defined by these black and white lines, and you'll see it'll say PB, there's an example 116. So that's the planning block and the identifier. A lot of times when people start talking about options, they'll be like, I want to move PB 16 from this school to that school. You know, when you start building options, you can refer to it that way. The number underneath that is the K through 5 enrollment that lives within that planning block. So in that planning block, there's 39 students that live in planning block 116. So when you're thinking about moving students, you know how many students you're moving. So we have 2 draft options for you to start with tonight, and these are really just for you to get an idea of what you can do. They're not the final options. They're just a place for you to start seeing what can be done and what can be built on. And what we're going to ask you to do is actually take those, look at what we have, make more modifications, build new options. You know your communities best, so you know if there's areas that shouldn't go together, should go together, and make more sense. And that's really what these are, just starting options for you to look at. When you're looking at the boundary or these maps and these options, we ask you to look at the geography, like I'm saying, if communities make sense. Oh, that's actually a dead-end road, you can't get out of there. Those types of things when you're looking at these options. Also study the tables. We're going to give you in your reports, there's demographic information, there's all kinds of statistics on each of these boundary changes options. Including enrollment and utilization. Also look at them in respect to the objectives of the study and then the considerations you all just reviewed. So this is just the current boundary. Go through that one. So this is just an overview of draft option 1. You can see, I don't know if you guys can all see that, we tried to outline the areas in orange that changed in this boundary option. So in this option, 164 students are impacted. There are no changes to the number of students in non-transport zones, so they were not impacted at all. And both satellite areas were eliminated. In this option, one satellite area went to Oliver Beach and another satellite area went to Chase Elementary School. You can see in the utilizations, they're all below, each school is below 95%. So we have 2 schools at 95% and the other one is at 80. Oliver Beach stays at 83% utilization. In option 2, 121 students are impacted. Again, we don't impact anything in the non-transport zones and we eliminate both satellites. In this option, both satellite areas go to Oliver Beach. Again, on the utilizations, we have 92% at Chase, 93% at Oliver Beach, and 88% at Seneca Elementary School. Again, these are just starting points for you to start seeing how we build these and make additional recommendations. Yes?
What the satellite area means? I was just curious, what does a satellite area mean?
So a satellite area is the area, it's a non-contiguous area. So I'm trying to get a better map where you can see them better.
I can see where they are.
Okay, yeah, these two right here.
I see where they are. I just
So
didn't
a lot of
understand what it
times these
means.
were developed in the 60s, the 50s. So if a school didn't have capacity, they were proposing a new development and a school didn't have capacity, they said, this school has capacity, so this new development's going to go here. So we have these scattered throughout the county and now we're trying to resolve them as we go into boundary studies to eliminate these areas. So development may have happened in here years and years and years ago. Chase didn't have capacity for it, so they said, Seneca has capacity, this area is going to go to Seneca. So right now, these students in this area attend Seneca Elementary School, which means the transportation has to pick them up and drive them down here to Seneca.
Okay.
So we just say they're like satellites. They're not. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so other data that's available in your report, we have demographic data, you have race, ethnicity, economically disadvantaged, and then you're going to see this column ML. ML stands for multilingual learners. These are learners of second language learners. And when you start reviewing the options, you're going to want to review how these different percentages change. So when you were talking about the impacts on maybe your Title I funding, community schools funding, you can look at in the options how these numbers may change and impact those for the economically disadvantaged. So that will be helpful when you're reviewing that. Mm-hmm.
So if being blacked out means that there's 0?
No, so when they're blacked out, they're below 5% because of the privacy of students. So it's just a redacting. If they're below 5%, they get blacked out.
So we can just assume that they're both below 5%?
Yes.
Okay.
These are the feeder patterns you were asking about earlier. Again, we're not moving any middle or high school boundaries, but sometimes when you're moving elementary school boundaries, that means you could go, it changes the percentages splits of where they go. So really the only school that has changes in percentages in any of these options currently is Seneca. They have always fed to either Middle River or Stemmers Run, but the percentages of how many students feed to these schools changes in the options. So those are the numbers you're going to want to pay attention to in those. Just some have more split, some have less split. And then the last table that I'm going to go over is the student impact. So this is really where you can see who's changing schools. So like I said, in the first option, 164 students were impacted. This tells you for Chase, 201 were in the boundary. They stay in the boundary. 88 students go from Chase to Oliver Beach. And then 25 go from Chase to Seneca. So it kind of breaks down who's moving where. So you can see exactly the transfer from school to school. So I'm now going to turn this over. You're going to get to look at the options. Mike's going to go over an activity.
All right, so kind of like before, you've got one of these handouts at the center, if you guys can pass that out. And just like we did for the consideration stuff, we'll start doing individual, and then we'll work in the smaller groups. We've thrown a lot at you in a really short period of time. Our good friend here just came in late, and she's catching it all up even faster, but she's doing great. So we created this exercise to help you to think through some of the material you've had. And so in addition to the PowerPoint we've gone through, if you keep flipping, there's the options report that has all the information again, has the maps as well at the back in your notebooks there that you can use. And so if just looking at the exercise here, what we want you to do is we've got both a way to look at the current boundary as well as the two options that have been presented to you. And just to simply think about the things you like about them, the things you dislike about them, and then maybe some ways that you would improve them. And then along with those suggestions, maybe any concerns that you have on either what those suggestions would do or anything like that. So for example, let me just give you an example. And using these consideration we talked about is often a good vocabulary to use to be able to talk about this. So in an option, you may say, I like that, or like how it efficiently uses school capacity. So you put that in the like box, and you say, but I dislike how it impacts student body diversity. So then looking at the maps and other things you may have a suggestion on how you might improve the student body diversity that you dislike. But then by doing that, you think, well, what will that do to neighborhood continuity? So this kind of helps to show some of the tensions involved as you're creating these options and thinking through these things. Now, since this is your first go at it, you may not have a whole lot to say. That's okay. If your ideas are more general or you have I don't knows and some of those things, that's fine too. But we just want to kind of give you a minute to kind of think through some of these things on your own, and then we'll get you together in your group. So I promise you this, after another meeting or so, you guys will all be experts at this, and you'll be throwing out lingo like crazy. So we'll give you a minute now to talk through this, or not talk through, but work on this on your own. Like I said, BCPS staff is here to help you. So if all of this just went completely over your head and you're like, can you give this to me one more time, please? Happy to do that. If you just have one question about this, what this little data piece means, we're happy to do that too. So we'll just give you some time now to kind of dig in and go through, and then we'll get back together in just a minute to explain how you do stuff in your small groups. All right. You guys can all stay standing how you are. We're just going to explain how we'll do the rest of this. All right. We'll have you working in your small groups now. You've had a little time to work on your own. We're going to let you loose on the maps and have at it. So we've got markers for you here. Feel free to mark up the maps as you feel appropriate. Leave any notes. Specific to this, a few things just to review the planning blocks. Melissa mentioned those little geographies that are outlined in the dashed lines. If there's any of those that you feel that shouldn't be split, that should be combined, feel free to mark those up and we can get that cleaned up so that if those are moving, they should move or stay together. Additionally, as when Melissa was talking about like the development of additional options, a way commonly to do this is you'll look at an option, for example, option 1, you'll say, I like a lot of this, but I dislike this part over here. I'd like this better if these planning blocks either stayed or went to this other place. And then as you're doing that, it's helpful to think about the numbers involved and say, okay, well, we just did 100 students. Where can we bounce that out somewhere else to make up for that difference there? So there's some things you can think about there. And then as you guys do this tonight, if there's additional permutations of any of these that you come up with, we'll come up next meeting, we'll bring them back in a nice tidy map, nice tidy table, so you can kind of compare, see how that goes. So before we let you loose, anyone have anything for the group they want to say? Otherwise, we'll let you get to work. And like I said, we'll poke around the different groups and see how things are going. All right, guys, if you want to take another couple minutes just to finish up your thoughts, what we want to also make you aware of, so we want to give you a chance to share out with the bigger group. So as you're wrapping up, if you want to, what we find works well, if you've made notes on the maps and marked them up, that's awesome. What we find works well is if you have one or two people act as the show person to hold up the map, and then you have one or two people that kind of share out with words telling us. So if you have a spokesman or two that want to share your thoughts. Again, of special interest tonight are any planning block changes we need to make, any combination or splits, and then any general guidance is good too. We didn't like this, we didn't like that. And then if you've got specific blocks you want to change and different options, that's great too. And then we'll make notes of all those and be ready for next time. All right, so we ready to share? Let's start with group in the back. What you guys are blue, right? Let's start with blue group. If you want to grab your maps or map, if you have just one, that's fine. However much or little, this is up to you guys. We can help too. All right, I'll give you the microphone here.
Yeah.
You only need one person.
Oh. Yeah, we were not prepared to come up. Okay. All right. So we believe the draft option number 2 would be best. We were looking at, of course, the diversity, keeping groups together. We talked about adding 105 and 129 to Oliver Beach. We were thinking about transportation and the buses in the other option. So if in option 1, they have this neighborhood here going down to Oliver Beach for transportation purposes, that could be more of a nightmare. So it'd make more sense for them to come here, and then for the kids who, this group, we said that they would just go to Oliver Beach rather than having them split coming down to Seneca. They would just go this way down Eastern rather than coming towards the busier part.
Which planning block is that?
This is 309.
So you're saying 309 should go to Oliver Beach?
Yes.
In that.
Yeah.
How it is on here.
Yes. Just comparing them to, that's why we like this option, because it has them going down Eastern Ave towards Oliver Beach and not back the other way on option 1. Currently, where half of them are coming to Seneca and coming back towards the more busy area, the lights. We were also talking about resources to the school for Oliver Beach. So if they did get, for community schools, did you want to speak about that? I know you have the numbers there. Okay.
So it looked like, based on the numbers for option 1, they would get more students, but their economically disadvantaged rate would still be too low for community schools, whereas with option 2, they'd get a little less students, but their rate would be high enough to where, then they could get the additional funding and resources.
Would we get the funding and resources for next year, or would that have to
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Let me capture your question real quick. Can you bring this up? Thank you.
Yeah, I was just asking, I didn't know if somebody knew. So with that option, if you said we became a community school, or whether we became Title I, whatever it is, since they're using the September 30th count for next year, then next year you're saying even though we would be a community school or a Title I school, since we wouldn't be identified, we would have no funding for the change for next year. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how quickly that process takes. I don't know if anyone else.
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering
Yeah,
about next
yeah.
year. In the meantime, until it all. Right, thank you.
Yeah. I think that was all, right? We hit the major, yeah? Okay.
Any volunteers from Green? Who wants to talk? That's okay. If anything you want to share out for if you don't have anything specific, does anything general you want to share or any?
I do want to share about PB 113 and PB 309. In option 1, it keeps them together for one school. In option 2, it splits them. Currently, they are split, and that is one apartment complex that is split down the middle. It winds up being an issue when the apartment complex has to relocate a family due to whatever issue in their unit, and then they're placed in another unit that's on the other side of the complex, and then the spillover winds up being, the result winds up being that the child has to switch schools. And so I think it's paramount that there's consideration that this apartment complex stays together. No matter what school they go to, the apartment complex needs to stay together because it displaces children inadvertently.
Thank you. That's excellent feedback. Anyone else want to share anything before we wrap up? We missed. So just a couple of things as we close. So next meeting will be in 2 weeks, same place, same time. So you've got the material. We gave a lot to you. If as you go, so again, all this stuff you have in your binder, it's also online. As you're going through this, if middle of the night you think, oh, what about this? Feel free to call us, email me, whatever. Be happy to talk through anything between these meetings. If we understand there's a lot that you're taking in. When we come back next time, we'll have a lot of this we review. We'll try to clean up some of these, or make some adjustments based on the feedback that we received, and then we'll go from there and give you more time to kind of churn through the stuff. So this will be what you guys did right here at the end is basically what most of the meeting's going to be from here on out is churning through the data, trying to see what can we do to make this better, and go from there. There are very little of us up here talking at you guys again, like we did tonight. So, again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate your time, Paul. You want?
Do you have a parking lot or something for questions for us to leave?
Sorry.
In case.
Thank you. I didn't follow my script. Yes, we've got these beautiful orange papers here. So if there's any other questions you want answered, feel free to put those on there. Anything else random that you're, what about this? Put it there, and we'll do our best to, because we hope you kind of got the thing. We don't know everything. We know a lot of things. We don't know everything about everybody else's business. So if we don't know it, we're gonna try to find the answer for you. So sometimes it takes a minute to go get it, but we have time between meetings to go do that. So if there's anything you have questions about, we'll do our best to track it down for you. All right?
Mike?
Yep.
All right. So I want to emphasize with the calendar, we showed you that there's a meeting before the public information session. The two things that we'd like to do next meeting, one is we want to show you maps, options that reflect your concerns that you've brought up. And then you say, okay, now I see what it does. We'll change the numbers, change the demographic percentages so you can see the results. And ideally, at that next meeting, we will decide which options we bring to a public information session. If you're ready for that, we'll do it then. If we're not ready, because you still want more churning, then we'll come back for another meeting. But that's what we're hoping to do next meeting, is actually decide which ones are you think are the most viable, and we'll have a public information session here. The public will come, they will talk to you directly and give you their concerns, and you'll take that into consideration when we come back. Thank you.
All right, and as you leave tonight, you can either leave your name tags with us, or if you promise to bring them back so Don doesn't make a new one, up to you. We're happy to keep track of these for you.